Oh boy, I just always love starting these programs, Trina, because we've had a little bit of time to chat ahead of time, and I've got a sneak preview of some of the things that you're going to be talking about. This is the third in a three-part series on various plants and growing and those sorts of things. And then there's the affairs of the days and a revolution and the real revolution. So I can hardly wait to hear what you have to say on both those topics.
Well, Scott, I pray for the grace to say the right things, especially on the last two. But we'll go on with our plants. That seems to be having a good response to go on with the plants. So I have here two kinds. Basically, I'm not anymore doing the kind of gardening I once did. I really gardened seriously, but I'm not now. I'm really supporting other people gardening as is appropriate at 92, I think. But my yard is taking over. And you know, in the northeast of the country, the taking over of a yard becomes a forest eventually. So my front yard now has a tree I didn't get out in time that's now 40 feet high. And it's made everything is very shady in my yard. It's all different than earlier when I was gardening more. But anyhow, it's more like a back to nature situation. And so I'm bringing up to you, and I think I'll do it. This is May 6th today. And I just keep bringing up what happens in my yard without much work on my part, and some good and some not. I'm going to bring up the not good also today. So here's again what was popular last week, and my friend Marisol wants to put it in her yard. This is how my violets that you can eat still be. Now, why? It's not just white violets that are edible. It's the purple and it's the yellow kind. And I used to have lots of purple, and now I have lots of white. And I don't have any yellow at the moment. And by the way, I have all of this on a big garbage can lid, which is another thing it's good for. Garbage can lids are good for. So I thought I'd keep up with the dandelions. So here's a dandelion. We still have some blooms. And what I appreciate about this is that the leaves are fairly large. And it's not right next to the road. So I'll be able to eat this tonight. I'll cook that up and eat it. Don't eat dandelions. Well, I could eat it. I could do it raw, but they're bitters. And the bitters are very good for us. But look on this one, how long the stem is, and it's ready to puff out and blow all over the place, which is fine with me. I even had to take this out of where it was because I'd like more dandelions in that area, not at the street. So I'm going to have to put all of this stuff on the floor because of the nature of my setup here. And here's something else. Let's see. I don't know what this is. This might be, it has nice leaves. It just seems to grow here pretty well. So if any of you know what it is, you can, and I don't have an app that I can just identify all this with. So, okay, there's that one. And then well, this is another one like it, only it's white. That one is kind of purple. So, okay. And I think I showed you this medicinal last week because it has orange roots and it's very medicinal, but I've never made anything out of it. If you do this herbal thing, it takes quite a bit of study and research and time to figure it out. And so at this stage of my life, I don't really have time for it. Now, let's see. I think I have some other stuff. Oh. This is a lemon mint. It's very lemony. And as is real with the other mints, all the other mints, it spreads. But this one doesn't spread like the peppermint and some of the others do. So this is edible. Okay. So the dandelions and this. And then I just picked this. You can see how big this stingy nettle is. Now it was about this tall just a week ago. So it's this tall. So I've kept up another big batch, and I'll keep and brought it to someone yesterday because it's a challenge for people to. They don't want to pick it. They're happy that I pick it and cook it for them. So I just put the whole big bunch in a pot, and I have some that I'll just hang up to dry for the future or when it's not around. Now, here's another one that I can't believe how it's grown. It just this is another edible plant that's like wild garlic, and it tastes nice and very mild, sort of little garlicky. But look at how long it is. May 6th. Look at that. That it becomes a weed in my yard. So at a certain point, I just, before it goes to seed, the one thing I try to do these days is try to catch things I don't want to proliferate when they seed. And like that greater celandine with the flowers, it's beautiful right now. It's just yellow jewels all over my yard. My yard looks great. But the leaves are already starting to fall off of some of them, while others are just blooming. And as soon as the leaves fall off, the seed pods start. And when the seed pods are ripe, they burst and they spread it all, themselves all over. So now I'll go into what's not heavy in my yard. This, folks, this was totally flat a couple of weeks ago. And one of them is already higher than I am, 6 feet high. This is not that high. I have this sitting on the floor right now, and I'm sitting in a chair. This is Japanese knotweed. Boy, oh boy, folks. Although it's used to create resveratrol, which is a very important ingredient that a lot of supplements are made of. It is just terrible. Now, I pulled this, so it doesn't have its real root. I'm sure the name came because it's a big ball, it's a big ball down in there, and it just shoots out things in every direction. It's a ball that looks like one of these baseballs that have the skin off the top, and you see all those little hairs. It's very round, so it's not knotweed. It's well named. It's very well named. And of course, the bane of my existence, besides that one. Do you recognize this? Bamboo. I was told at Rutgers when I went down there that this kind of bamboo does not spread. Do not believe it, and do not plant it unless you're in a position that you can contain it. It can be very useful, and these are big enough right now to, say, form little stakes to identify your flowers. Not big enough to hold anything strong. And of course, if you let it grow further, it never will get to be that famous bamboo. I have this sitting on the floor now, so you can see how tall it is already, this year's growth. So don't plant that. And now I want to introduce you. I don't know if they call it the Velcro plant, but it sure is like Velcro. It just sticks to you. You pass it by and it breaks off easily and it sticks to you. And then you go and you take it off at some point and you spread it. It's like the burr of the burdock plant. So, by the way, here's a smaller Japanese knotweed. Now these you can see how droopy they are. I picked these just about at 12 o'clock. So they these things don't last long. Okay, I think that's my plant thing for today. I wanted to talk to you. This is the 4th of May. Is it? It's the fifth. It's from 1970. Kent State shootings. Now, Kent State is just 20 miles from where I grew up. It's where all my relatives were very close to, and my mother went there for college for a year and a half. Kent is a very small town, and Nixon has just invaded Cambodia, and there started to be protests on the campuses. And why I'm bringing it up is that it's very delicate subjects to bring up these things, but I can't help but think that that's murder in Kent State of 4 people and a warning of 7 by National Guardsmen that were called in is very similar to the kind of police invasion of Colombia and other places now to stop the protests against the Gaza genocide. And the question that the father of one of the girls who was killed said in a tearful thing that was rebroadcast this weekend was, why? Why? Why would a young girl not doing anything violent? These students were not doing anything violent on the campus. There was a ruckus apparently, and someone had broken some windows in the town before, and the things were National Guard was called out by the governor. But why? Why are these students treated like that? What's the free peace? That. Okay, Scott, go for it. Go for it. Look at that. Look at that crowd of peaceful people. And the National Guard shooting live bullets into that crowd. Into the crowd. Nobody, that was 13 seconds. 13 seconds. And nobody really believed until they saw people lying on the ground. And this is the iconic picture that I remember being broadcast around the world at that time. So Kent State, I was in Hartford, Connecticut. I was working on Hope for the Flowers in 1970. I was at that time, my family, that was how I was raised. So for me to become at all suspicious of what authority says was quite emotion. Now, I had just come from my time in Egypt, where I'd worked with girls, some of whose fathers made $50 a year, helping build a cooperative that would give them some economic basis to live on. And then I was evacuated in the 1967 war and ended up in Paris. During 1968, when Martin Luther King and Robert Kennedy were both assassinated, and the Sorbonne in Paris was in total protest, and subway stations were being torn up. And there I was, finding out that the people were occupying, artists were occupying the Palais des Beaux-Arts in Brussels. Now, Brussels is very close to Paris, so I went there as an artist. I wanted to see what these kids in sleeping bags in the big hall were thinking. And they didn't let me stay there overnight. I don't think they wanted an American mid-30s woman to be caught in case the police did come that night. But I did visit them there, and I did ask one of the young men who was living there, occupying it, saying, do you really think if you kill the whole old order, something good will come? And he said, yes. And I realized I had to think about this revolution. And on the cover of Hope, it's about the real revolution. And the theme of these broadcasts are about the real revolution, which is radical sharing, freely given. Freely given. Both sides are terribly important. And so I want to plead with us as we think about these things. I'm listening to all these sides in these debates and these political things. I listen to everybody running. And I listen to them, not just what people say about them, or not just the anti-Trump thing that's all over the place. That's not the best reason, I think, to vote for somebody, is just that he isn't Trump. And I hear that a lot from people. And I don't really like the idea. I don't know that I could vote for Trump, but I can't vote for Biden either. So what does that leave me? It doesn't leave me in a very good place at this moment. But there's still some months before the election. And I hope we can come to our senses and not have such a negative reason to vote for whoever we vote for. And so I beg us to think about what the real revolution is. If you squash a caterpillar, you don't get a butterfly. But if the caterpillar climbs to the top of the caterpillar pillar, as Hope for the Flowers tells us about, and it gets to the top, it doesn't stay there very long. It's pushed off by the next layer. And what happens to it? It dies without ever becoming a butterfly, without ever becoming its full, beautiful self, able to share love around and drink of the nectar from the flowers. So that's the message of Hope for the Flowers. And it's the one I'm going to leave you with today. And these subjects that I dare to talk about today are very difficult, very difficult. And even in my own family, right after that Kent State shooting that was so close to all of us, we had a family reunion, and my cousins on my father's side, they said they got what was coming to them. They shouldn't be doing that. So within our own relatives, we have problems. So how to make your own mind up and be open and not accept the censorship that's going on right now. We need to hear all sides of stories. So thank you so much for watching and paying attention. And I love all of you, and I'm grateful for this chance. I never thought I'd be doing this, but it's Scott who's helped me so much. So thank you, Scott.